Hey, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about something that can save you thousands of dollars and years of stress before you ever invest a single dollar. This is about the foundation, the part most people skip because it doesn't feel exciting. But here's the truth, every financial collapse I've ever witnessed started with ignoring the basics. After over 15 years in finance and investing, I've learned that the most expensive mistakes are the quiet ones, the ones that compound slowly until suddenly everything feels impossible. So before we talk about any strategy, any opportunity, any market move, here's exactly what I check first. This is the real world checklist I use personally, and it's the same framework I share with anyone serious about building stability. Let's break it down step by step. I always start here because nothing else matters if this part isn't solid. Money does not respond to emotion, background, effort, or good intentions. It only responds to math. If you spend more than you make, eventually you lose. If you borrow faster than you repay, pressure builds. If you invest without margin, you're one problem away from wiping out years of work. Most financial trouble is not mysterious. It's arithmetic that got ignored. I've worked with people across every income range, some making under $40,000 a year, others making six figures. And the pattern is the same. When the numbers don't work, life doesn't work. Expenses that exceed income always end the same way: stress, debt, and difficult choices. The way real investors verify this is simple. They track their base numbers: income, fixed expenses, variable spending, remaining margin. If the margin is not positive, wealth cannot grow, no matter how good the strategy looks. It's not exciting, but it's honest. I've seen people try to optimize investment returns while running a monthly deficit. It doesn't matter if you're getting 8% returns, if you're bleeding 10% in lifestyle expenses you can't sustain. The math always wins. Always. You can't negotiate with it, you can't motivate your way past it, you can't blame circumstances or timing or bad luck. If the numbers are negative, the outcome will be too. When you accept the math early, you stop lying to yourself later. Good investing begins with arithmetic, not optimism. Once you understand that numbers write the story whether you like it or not, the next step is to decide how you're going to behave inside those numbers. I don't mean this literally, I mean financially. Children do what feels good now. Adults create a plan and follow it even when it's uncomfortable. Most financial pain comes from reacting instead of planning. If you make decisions based on mood, stress, energy, or social pressure, your finances will swing constantly. I've seen this play out again and again. A tough work week leads to dining out. A stressful month leads to shopping. A tired night leads to using the credit card. These aren't isolated moments. They become a pattern. Investors know better. Planning always happens before emotion gets involved. Simple systems replace willpower: automatic savings, spending thresholds, clear rules on what gets financed and what doesn't. This is why experienced people rely on structure, not discipline. Discipline fails when life gets loud. Structure holds. According to consumer finance studies, households with written budgets and automated systems experience lower debt accumulation and steadier savings. Not because they're smarter, because they're consistent. They decided once, then built a system that removes the need to decide again every time emotions run high. Think about it this way: every financial decision you make while stressed, tired, or emotional is a decision made by the worst version of yourself. That version doesn't think long term, that version just wants relief. So the goal is to remove that version from the decision-making process entirely. You do that with systems. Children chase comfort, adults build structure, wealth only grows in structure. This naturally leads us to one of the most dangerous misunderstandings people carry into adulthood: believing income alone will solve everything. This is a hard one for people to accept. Income feels like the answer to everything. If I just make more, it'll all go away. Sometimes it does, more often, it makes things worse. I've personally watched people double their income and still feel broke within a year. The problem was never the paycheck. It was expansion: new car, bigger home, more subscriptions, better restaurants, nicer clothes. Income goes up, behavior follows, and suddenly the same stress returns at a higher price point. According to household finance reports, a significant percentage of six-figure earners still live paycheck to paycheck. Not because they're underpaid, but because their lifestyle grew in direct proportion to their income. The margin that should have appeared when they earned more got consumed immediately by lifestyle upgrades they convinced themselves they deserved. Real investors check cash flow ratios, not just income. They measure what percentage of earnings is committed versus flexible. They protect margin before spending on comfort. If margin disappears every time income rises, growth stops. You're just running faster on the same treadmill. I've worked with people making $200,000 a year who had less financial flexibility than people making $60,000. Why? Because the person making $60,000 kept their expenses at $45,000 and invested the rest. The person making $200,000 had expenses of $195,000 and wondered why they couldn't get ahead. If your behavior doesn't change when income rises, nothing changes except the bill size. Which brings us to the moment most financial messes begin, not planning the purchase until after it's made. Almost every financial issue I've ever seen traces back to one habit: buying first, calculating later. People look at payments instead of totals. They ask, can I handle this per month? Instead of, is this worth the next 5 years of income? That 3-year lease? That 5-year loan? That 30-year mortgage? Each one locks future income before it even arrives. Professionals verify purchases with full cost analysis, not just the sticker price, insurance, maintenance, depreciation, opportunity cost. That's money not invested, not saved, not available during emergencies. Most people never run that math, and then they're shocked when life feels tight. Let me give you an example. A car payment of $450 per month over 5 years is $27,000. Add insurance at roughly $150 per month. That's another $9,000. Maintenance and fuel over 5 years, easily $8,000 to $10,000. You're at $44,000 to $46,000 total. Now think about opportunity cost. That same money invested conservatively at 5% annual return becomes over $51,000 in 10 years. The real cost isn't the car, it's the decade of compounding you gave up. And here's the part people miss: cars depreciate. So you didn't just spend $46,000, you spent $46,000 on something now worth maybe $12,000. That's a $34,000 loss, plus the investment opportunity you sacrificed. Suddenly, that affordable $450 monthly payment cost you nearly $40,000 in total financial position. Smart decisions happen before checkout, not after damage control. Once you understand cost in terms of future control, the lens changes. Now we talk about a concept that quietly determines who wins long term. Status is rented, cash flow is owned. If your lifestyle is supported by payments, you're not successful. You're obligated. The car, the phone, the furniture, the subscriptions. Each monthly payment is income already spent before you touch it. I've seen households making strong money with almost no flexibility. One bill away from chaos. That's not stability, that's illusion. Investors prioritize cash flow because it represents freedom. How much remains after obligations determines how fast you move, how well you absorb setbacks, and how safely you invest. Basic financial analysis starts with net cash position, income minus fixed obligations. The more predictable and positive that number becomes, the less fragile your life is. When an unexpected $2,000 expense hits, it's either a minor inconvenience or a catastrophe. The difference is cash flow. Status makes you look successful, cash flow makes you actually successful. One impresses strangers, the other protects your family. You don't measure wealth by what you own, but by what still belongs to you each month, which leads directly to the single mindset that traps more people than any low salary ever did. I can afford the payment is not the same as I can afford the thing. If you only look at monthly cost, you're ignoring total ownership. You're also assuming your future income will remain stable, which reality rarely guarantees. Experienced investors reverse this thinking. They ask, could I pay this outright if necessary? If the answer is no, it better be essential, not cosmetic. Payment culture stretches income forward while pulling freedom backward. It makes life heavier over time instead of lighter. Debt can be used strategically, but never casually. When you finance something, you're betting on your future self having the same income, the same health, the same circumstances. That's a bet most people lose eventually. Job loss, medical issues, market downturns, family emergencies, life happens, and when it does, every payment you committed to becomes a weight around your neck. I've watched people lose homes, cars, and years of financial progress because they financed their lifestyle assuming nothing would ever change. Everything changes, always. True affordability is about freedom, not installments. Once you step away from payment thinking, dangerous patterns become easier to spot. Certain spending categories cause disproportionate damage: vehicles, housing upgrades, lifestyle signaling. These are the areas where excess hides easily. People rarely say, I ruined myself with one bad choice. They say, I upgraded a little, then again, then again. This isn't random. Lifestyle inflation moves faster than discipline. Smart investors check ratios: housing as a percentage of income, car costs relative to savings, debt load compared to cash flow. If any one category starts dominating your financial attention, it's a warning sign. I've worked with clients who spent 40% of their income on housing. Technically manageable until one job change, one repair, one health issue made everything collapse. The margin was gone before the crisis even started. Financial advisors generally recommend keeping housing costs below 30% of gross income, not because 31% causes immediate disaster, but because margin protects you when reality gets messy. The less breathing room you have, the faster small problems become catastrophic. Same with vehicles. If your car payment, insurance, and maintenance consume more than 15 to 20% of your income, you're driving something you can't actually afford, even if you're making the payments. You've turned transportation into a financial vulnerability. Danger doesn't announce itself, it becomes familiar first, which brings us to the most invisible financial enemy of all. Very few people go broke on one purchase. They go broke on delivery fees, on small upgrades, on constant convenience. A few dollars here, a few purchases there. Over months and years, it becomes massive. Studies on consumer behavior consistently show microspending as the largest unmanaged category in most budgets. It's rarely the rent, rarely the utility bill, it's leakage. Think about it. $5 a day on coffee is $1,825 per year. Add lunch out 3 times a week at $12 each, another $1,872. Subscription services you barely use, streaming, apps, memberships, easily $600 annually. Delivery fees and convenience purchases, another on $200. None of it feels serious. Together, it's over $5,500 annually. Over 10 years, that's $55,000 before considering any investment growth. Invested at 6%, that becomes over $75,000. You didn't lose $75,000 on one dumb decision. You lost it on 1,000 tiny choices that felt harmless. Wealth disappears in silence, not explosions. Once you understand that, you can finally confront the habits that drain you quietly. Entertainment spending looks harmless until it compounds. Eating out when tired, shopping when bored, convenience when stressed. None of it feels serious, but it's systematic. Real financial stability requires awareness, logging spending, reviewing patterns, removing friction from savings, and adding friction to spending. I'm not saying eliminate joy, I'm saying know the cost. If you spend $200 monthly on dining out and you're fine with that trade, great. But if you're stressed about money while doing it, that's not a spending problem, it's an awareness problem. The best tool I've found for this is simple tracking, not obsessive budgeting, just awareness. For 30 days, write down every purchase, every single one. You'll be shocked at what you find, not because you're irresponsible, but because small spending is invisible until you measure it. You fund your future by disrupting comfort, not erasing joy. Now we stop reacting and start designing. Financial planning does not start with money, it starts with direction. Where do you want to be in 10 years? Debt-free, own property, investable cash, flexibility? Investors build around outcomes, not moods. You don't stumble into financial security, you move toward it deliberately. That means reverse engineering your life. If you want $100,000 saved in 10 years, that's roughly $10,000 annually, or about $833 per month. Now you know the target. Now you can build behavior around it. Most people do the opposite. They spend first, save whatever's left, and wonder why progress feels impossible. There's never anything left. There's always one more expense, one more reason, one more exception. Start at the end, work backward, build the system that gets you there. If you need to save $833 monthly and your current margin is only $300, you now have a clear problem to solve. Increase income by $533 or reduce spending by $533. Suddenly the path is visible. You increase income and reduce spending, not one or the other if you want results that last. Most people pick one. They try to earn more while keeping spending the same, or they cut expenses but never build income. Neither works long term. Real progress happens when you compress from both sides. Every extra dollar earned gets directed toward goals. Every unnecessary expense gets eliminated. The gap closes faster than you think. According to debt payoff studies, households that simultaneously increase income and reduce spending pay off debt 3 to 4 times faster than those using only one strategy. It's not magic, it's just math working in your favor instead of against you. Wealth isn't exciting, it's quiet, predictable, and built from habits that don't impress anyone. Automatic transfers, consistent contributions, unglamorous choices repeated over years. The most successful investors I know live below their means, invest the difference, and let time do the work. No tricks, no shortcuts, just consistency. According to long-term wealth studies, the majority of millionaires didn't inherit money or get lucky. They saved consistently, avoided debt, and invested in simple, diversified assets over decades. They drove used cars, lived in modest homes, skipped trends, and quietly built wealth while everyone else chased status. Boring works, exciting fails. New raises should build your future, not expand your comfort. Every time your income increases, you face a choice: lifestyle or leverage. Most people choose lifestyle. The raise disappears into slightly better everything: nicer apartment, newer car, more dinners out. Smart investors do the opposite. Income rises, lifestyle stays flat. The difference gets invested. That's how you build momentum. That's how you break out of the cycle. If you earn $50,000 and save 10%, you're saving $5,000 annually. Fine. Now you get a raise to $60,000. If you keep living on $50,000, you're now saving $10,000 annually. You just doubled your wealth building rate without changing your lifestyle at all. That's the power of avoiding lifestyle advances. Every raise becomes a compounding machine instead of a comfort upgrade. If your finances swing with your feelings, your account balance will always be unstable. Money should be systematic, predictable, decided in advance, not reactive. Emotional spending is the enemy of progress. Stress spending, celebration spending, boredom spending, revenge spending after a hard day. None of it builds wealth. All of it drains momentum. The solution is automation. Savings happen first. Investments happen automatically. Bills get paid without thought. What's left is yours to manage, but the important stuff already happened. Motivation dies, systems survive. You will not feel motivated every day. Some days you'll want to spend. Some days you'll want to skip contributions. Some days you'll want to ignore the plan entirely. That's why behavior beats motivation. You build systems that work regardless of how you feel. The money moves whether you're inspired or exhausted. The plan continues whether you're excited or indifferent. This is how real investors operate. They don't rely on willpower, they rely on structure. And structure doesn't care about feelings. Normal is broke, stressed, financed, and tired. So success starts with choosing something different. If you live like everyone else, you'll struggle like everyone else. Financial progress looks antisocial at first. Saying no to dinners, driving an older car, skipping trends, living in a smaller place. It feels weird because normal is leveraged, stressed, and paycheck dependent. The payoff comes later when everyone else is still stressed and you're not. When unexpected expenses are minor inconveniences instead of disasters. When job loss is a transition instead of a catastrophe. When retirement is a choice instead of a dream. This is the foundation. This is what I check before ever putting a dollar into investments, strategies, or opportunities, because none of that matters if the base is broken. You cannot grow wealth on unstable ground. Every strategy, every return, every plan depends on behavior first. Math first, structure first. The strongest portfolios aren't built in excitement, they're built in confirmation. Every number, every choice, every day is a piece of a longer story. Steady, patient, and true.